going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Major Keyz podcast, talking to keyboard players about music and life and everything in between. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Larry Wilson. What's going on, bro?
What's happening, brother?
Again, no relation.
No relation.
As far as we know, we had a cat named Julian Wilson, who I know like from Berkeley. I'm not related either, but who knows? We all might be in the same.
Well, we're all kind of related.
Yeah, so who knows, bro? So
Relationship, slaveship,
yeah,
somewhere
so,
there.
something like that. So how goes life, man? What's going on with you nowadays?
Keeping busy. I produce a lot of artists, including myself. So I'm doing a lot of production work these days. I own several bands. All those bands are working hard. So, balancing the life between the studio and the production company and the bands and the churches. I work at 2 churches. And, I got family life and all that. So, that's kind of the deal. I'm getting ready to release a big band album.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. Yeah,
and it's a lot going on. I mean, if I go into it, that'll be the entire podcast.
that's all right, bro. But let's actually, I want to touch on this. How do you balance? Because you do so much. I mean, like for y'all that don't know Larry, he's a keys player, but he also plays drums. He also sings, engineer, like everything under the music umbrella that needs to be done. Pretty much Larry Wilson does.
Not the best attorney, but
how do you like balance all of that sort of stuff and like keep your mind like working on multiple projects like at the same time?
Man, first of all, by the grace of God, because it's a lot, and I'm still really learning how to do it.
Yeah.
But I think it's by just being really clear and intentional about your priorities and what comes first. So, in my life, the totem pole is God, wife, kids, and then everything else.
Got you.
In whatever order that needs to be in under that umbrella. But knowing that what's important should have the most priority when it comes to your thought process, your effort, your finances. So the things that really matter to me, I'm going to give the most effort to. And then I'm going to allow the bedrock of those things being situated and satisfied to be able to help me to do the other things well. The other part is letting your yeses be yeses and your noes be noes, that's the part I'm still learning is, say no to the things that you just can't do.
Yeah.
Say yes to the things that you can and should do, and that will have the greatest impact on the journey of where you're trying to get to.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty much the philosophy of it. Now, technically, mechanically, it's about scheduling.
Yeah.
It's about time management. It's about discipline, which is another thing that you have to perfect over time. And so, that's the big part. And then past that, get yourself an assistant.
Oh, got you. But yeah, you definitely like have to like compartmentalize. Like, hey, this is one project. This is one because like
Absolutely.
Because when I was like doing my album, that was like the only thing that I could like. I mean, like of course I had to like work and stuff, but like I couldn't even imagine like doing multiple albums at once, like doing someone else's project. It's just well, I mean, like I think now I could probably do it better, but it is about like knowing what is what and almost like not bleeding into each other's like
it's hard to
and stuff
do.
like that.
It's hard to do because you only have one brain, and even though our minds are extremely powerful and incredible at multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're talking, we're blinking, we're breathing, we're moving our muscles, and we're thinking about what we're going to say next.
Yeah.
You know, we're in the different layers of our minds. We're thinking about what we're going to do later, the other tasks that we have at hand.
Mm-hmm.
You still only have a finite bandwidth of information that you can handle at one time. And, you know, if you exceed that, then what happens is you become stressed, you become worried, you become more prone to dropping the ball at things, and I'm guilty of that. You know, when you take on too much, you know, certain things begin to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
So a part of what it means to multitask and to carry on multiple projects and endeavors at one time is to know what your limit is. And, you know, if you exceed that limit, bless you.
Thank you.
You're gonna have you know, issues. So compartmentalizing and knowing what your bandwidth is important.
Got you. Cool. Let's start from the beginning. How did you get into playing keys, and just walk us through like where you started when you were like a young lad and like up until like now?
Okay. Well, when I was a young lad.
Young lad. Yeah.
Actually, I entered into music the way a lot of people do, and I'll speak specifically to black people. Mm-hmm. A lot of black people enter music through church and through the drums. I call drums the gateway drug.
Mm-hmm. Got you.
You get a hit of drums, and then that's like, yeah, I like this, and then through the matriculation of that, you discover other things that you like, and you end up doing other things. So I started playing drums in church when I was about 3 years old, and I fell in love with music, you know, kind of immediately. My uncle is a professional musician. He was the one that kind of taught me. My sister played drums in church and was a drum major in the marching band. My mother was a singer, or is a singer, and a minister. So church was very important and central to my introduction and development in music. And so when I was in 6th grade, entering into middle school, my mother allowed me to enroll into a school for the performing arts in Jacksonville, Florida. And that was my first real formal introduction into, you know, the world of music.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, the different genres and, you know, music theory and reading and you know, kind of getting into the different percussions and things of that nature and playing in groups. You know, because before that, I really only played in church. I hadn't even started playing professionally yet. So I really only played in church. And, you know, that kind of was like, okay, now I'm beginning to think of music as a career, in which I made that decision, you know, and I would say maybe the 8th grade.
Gotcha.
I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. Like,
so had you started playing keys yet, or
at this point I'm not playing keys yet? I'm still playing drums, but here's what the important thing is about it. Yeah. Is through learning the different times of the classical percussion, enabled me to become on a subconscious level akin to the format of the keyboard. Okay. Because I was playing xylophone, I was playing marimbas, vibraphones, played timpani, and these kind of things kind of get you into the melodic and harmonic structure of the keyboard, knowing, you know, how the keys is laid out is kind of akin to the percussion. Yeah. Because keyboard is, you know, piano is a percussion instrument. So it's also during this time where I was diagnosed with perfect pitch. Diagnosed. Gotcha. My band director caught me tuning the timpani without the tuner. Oh, and I was actually playing my scales on the timpani, which, you know, in the 7th grade was, you know, amazing to them. So they took me through this litany of tests. They played they put a blindfold over my eyes and played notes on the piano. Oh, wow. Call them out, and then he dropped a quarter on the ground. And what key is that? And it's like, oh, wow. It was like,
do you have it like to the cent, like, oh yeah, it's E flat, but like it's a couple of cents sharp, or is it just like right?
I'm not gonna say it's a scientific, like, you know, yeah, that's 447.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
I wouldn't say that, but I would say, yeah, it's pretty on point to the, if you played a chord, I could with 98% accuracy tell you every note in the chord, no matter how complex and clustered the chord is.
Mm-hmm.
I know what key a train is in. I know what key a car engine is in, and I had to learn after. It's like it doesn't bother you until people tell you. So it's like, yeah, I got perfect pitch. Now you hear everything, and it becomes like annoying after a while. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if that like I was like, bro, that seems. I mean, like, yeah, it's cool, like in a music context, but like when you just like kind of just like sitting here and watching TV, I'm like, bro.
Yeah, when you first discover you have it, it's like, sheesh, you hear everything, and it becomes a game at first, but then it's like, okay, yeah, you got to put it in the back of your mind that this car engine is like I know that my car, the horn is in A flat, so it's like. And it's an A flat major chord that my horn is in, so it's like I can tell if my alarm is going off. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, that's the key of my car. So it's like it's like you gotta turn it off after a while. In 8th grade is when I actually started to deal with keys, because in school, we had to take a piano class.
Okay.
So I had an introductory into piano, and I'll backtrack a little bit. My actual interest in keyboard goes way back into church, because I was always enamored by the organ.
Okay.
So it was really about the Leslie, because I love to see the Leslie spin, and it was like, what's going on in that box?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was just really cool how the Leslie would speed up and slow down, and like how the organ could control the temperature of the service, and like I thought it was always cool, even as a kid. So I used to always, even though I was in love with drums, I will also be like really like interested in like what's going on over here on this organ over here. So getting into the 8th grade, really starting to dabble into keys and piano through the school thing, and then my mother started a church around the same time. And so when your mom starts a church and you're a musician,
you gotta come on now.
You're automatically the minister of music. Like, you're the head of the music department. So I had to, at some point, I started to dabble and play keys during the services, and some random kid or somebody would play drums, which is how I got started on drums. And at some point, I started to play professionally, as I got a little better, and it didn't take long because I have perfect pitch.
So wait, you didn't take lessons on keys?
Not outside of school, like outside of like the basic piano class.
Okay, yeah.
I learned fingerings, and I learned scales, and learned little simple tunes, but no actual like. I didn't have a piano teacher.
Okay.
That came to my house.
Right.
So through that, man, it's like at some point I found out that piano players make way more money than drummers do, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty sad. But especially
what can you do?
Especially in church at the time, man. Like I think that my first professional church gig, I think I was making I think I made like $200 or $250 a service a week.
And you're like in high school.
And I'm like a freshman in high school.
Balling.
Yeah, maybe a sophomore or something like that. And the drummer made like $75, and I was like,
that is a big gap. Why is well? I'm gonna still go back to your story, but why is there such a gap between? I mean, like I would say some people probably keep it like equal, but like, why do you think that there's such a gap? Because you've probably been on both sides.
Yeah, only the churches that can really afford to keep it equal keep it equal. If most churches, the organist or the pianist gets more money, and that's for two reasons. It's number one, supply and demand. In the black church especially, it's like the stereotype is that we can all dance, we can all sing, and we can all play drums. We just all have rhythm. Like, rhythm is so indigenous to our DNA that anybody can almost get on the drums and hold a beat down. Even if it's not But I say that to say that in most churches, you can probably find in the congregation 5 people that can get on the drums and hold down a service on drums. it's not the same for pianists and organists.
Yeah.
It's kind of a craft that, if you're not good at it, it's gonna immediately affect the outcome of the service.
Absolutely.
So, getting a good organist or a good pianist or whatever becomes a little bit more of a task because there's not enough of us to go around.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Number two is because the pianist and the organist, like I said before, is generally more responsible for the temperature of the service.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of have to navigate the different highs and lows of the service by how we play. When the preacher is preaching, when there's talk music, there's all these different things where we're all it's like we're film scoring the service, and that's even beyond just playing choir and praise and worship and all those things. So I think that's
not just playing the songs.
That's where the intrinsic value of keys over drums. Even though I believe that you can't, in a church service, especially in a black church service, you need both.
Yeah.
You got to have that rhythm because black people, you saw that Dave Chappelle episode where he was talking about how the different cultures respond to different instruments.
I'm sorry, that's beyond mine.
You're too young for that's before your time.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gen Xers, you don't know about that Chappelle show. Anyway, but yeah, so I discovered that pianists make more money than drummers, and I was like, I'm gonna rock with this for a while. Mm-hmm. And I still play drums, but it's like, man, I'm gonna make this money playing these organs,
playing these keys.
Yeah. So that's what it is.
Cool. All right, so balling in high school, making your 250. Man, I will tell you that it is like a cool feeling because like a lot of people I knew like worked quote unquote regular jobs, and I'm like, man, y'all at work 5 days a week. I go on Wednesday, Sunday, and I'm good.
Making about the same money you're making.
Making the same, if not more.
Yeah.
But, neither here nor there. But, so past high school, did you go to college for music too, or you just went into the work field?
But it was drums that got me to, because drums is my principal instrument. So even though I'm playing keys and drums and all this stuff professionally, when it comes to school,
okay,
I'm a drummer percussionist. So I went to performing arts high school. Mm-hmm. I did all the things, all state, all district, did all these things. I got accepted into Berkeley, got accepted into Oberlin. Mm-hmm. I got accepted into Florida State University. Mm-hmm. Berkeley and Oberlin didn't give me any money. In terms of like relative to what their tuition actually is.
Yeah.
I didn't get enough money.
Dropping the bucket.
Oh my gosh.
That's because I went to 5 week and they announced like the scholarships and I was like, oh yeah, they gave me this amount of money. They're like, that's nothing.
Pennies, bro.
Yeah.
Pennies, man. So Florida State gave me a full scholarship.
Okay, cool.
And I kind of wanted that kind of regular college experience. I was kind of like, man, I like to go to like football games and
okay. So you didn't want to do like a full music.
I did, but one of the things that attracted me to FSU was just the ability to have that regular experience because I really missed out on it going to performing arts school from 6th grade all the way through high school. I never none of those schools had football teams. We didn't have a lot of it was all arts. Like we were artsy fartsy.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, this is probably the last, chance I'll have to actually get that part of the experience. So, I went and toured Oberlin's campus, and Oberlin is in the middle of nowhere, man. Farmland and cows and all it. It was like, ugh, what am I gonna do out here? But music. So I think it was just, me trying to have some type of life experience outside of the arts and what I was doing. So, but that and they gave me a full ride scholarship. So
it works. Yeah. And so what was that experience like? So like your principal instrument was drums, but so like what did you go in for and like how did that shape you?
So I went in. I got to Florida State as a jazz studies major. And I was in school. I was in school with some of the greats, man. Jameson Ross, came in a year after me, but he was there.
Nice.
Brandon McCrae,
awesome.
Great multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah.
John Lumpkin, who's a great drummer. Alfonso Horn, who's a nationally known trumpeter. And just a whole bunch of great musicians and artists were there. I studied under Leon Anderson. Marcus Roberts was our artist in residence at the time.
Okay.
Vincent Gardner, Scotty Barnhart was there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, Rodney Jordan, Bill Peterson, Bill Kennedy. So many great educators and musicians were there at the time. So it was like just an incredible experience to be around that level of musicianship, and that level of education and that demand for really dealing with the art form of jazz music. So you got that on the other side. On the other side,
yeah,
I became a part of the gospel choir.
Okay.
So I was first started at FSU's gospel choir, and then I went over and took on FAMU's gospel choir, which is a legendary choir.
Okay, you're playing keys or drums?
Keys.
Okay, keys in these.
Yeah, keys, and being a part of the church scene in Tallahassee, where FSU is located, and that kept me rooted in not only gospel and the faith and church, but also in continuing to play keys and organ and work professionally in that area, because I still played on Sunday mornings, even while I was in school. And the whole experience with the gospel choir kind of got me more into the gospel industry, because they would have guest artists come in, and all these different things will happen. My first time playing with Jonathan Nelson, I actually played drums on that concert, but I was a sophomore, and he was our guest artist for FSU's homecoming.
Okay.
So I met Jonathan Nelson and Justin Savage, and then also my first time playing for Kim Burrell was in FAMU's gospel choir.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, and that was a whole nother experience. So
yeah.
It was, that was the thing that kind of got me kind of into looking at the gospel music industry.
Okay, yeah.
Was through those things. So, yeah, you had all these different things on both ends, and I joined a couple of bands around the city and began to play keys in those bands. And I really started to make a name for myself as a music director and a keyboard player during this time. And this is where keys begin to really outpace drums.
Yeah.
Because there's so many drummers around, and there's not enough keyboard players. This is, again, supply and demand.
Yeah.
And I happened to start to be good at what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so people would just call me.
Yeah.
And at some point, people began to forget that I played drums.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there's like an 8-year gap, and this is coming out of college. There's an 8-year gap where nobody knows I play drums anymore.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's crazy. Like, as a producer, I became a minister of music. I started directing choirs and all this type. And this is where I started to get really deep into gospel as an industry. Yeah, I had to claw my way back into playing drums and even back into playing jazz, from the key, because it was just so much work and so much notoriety as a keyboard player and as a producer. So, yeah, man, that's kind of how it happened. My from childhood all the way up until I turned almost 30.
Yeah.
Keyz played kind of the principal role in my career as how I ate and how I made money.
Yeah.
So
interesting. 2 separate questions.
Yeah.
What made you move to Atlanta, and then what makes a good MD? Isaiah and I were talking about that. Like, what makes a good music director? So I want to know from your
loaded question,
from your point of view.
All right. So after I got married in 2014. I was still living in Jacksonville, Florida, and after I got married, we had a couple years in Florida, and at some point it just really got my wife is responsible actually for me coming back to jazz music.
Oh, okay.
Cause she kind of, she's kind of that special, person that helps you see to who you really are, when you have that person. So, after really kind of returning to jazz music, beginning to dream bigger, than where I presently was, the city that we were living in just kind of felt small after a while. It just felt like because she's a creative too. She's an author and
Right.
Writer and things of that nature. So, and she wanted to get into TV, film, kind of stuff like that. And I wanted to expand musically. I wanted to be in a city where I could do all of everything that I have to do. I could do it at the highest level possible.
Mm-hmm.
So at first we were going to go to New York because New York is definitely one of those cities where you can accomplish that.
Yeah.
But the cost of living in New York was, and still is pretty insane.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a family. At this point, my son was just born, so I have a daughter and a son, wife. So we're talking about not just going as as an adult. You got a family.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. So Atlanta, became like a real and both of us had always wanted to live in Atlanta as well.
Oh, okay.
So Atlanta was always like a cool city for us, but the more we thought about it, it was like, yeah, Atlanta seems like it would be a good look. There's room for us to grow and expand professionally.
Right.
But at the same time, we have enough space and enough safety to raise a family and to allow our kids to have, something close to what we had growing up, which is that country living, that kind of that kind of thing. So, and that's still close enough to our families where if we needed to, we could hop a flight or we could drive home relatively quickly if we needed to go home for any reason. So Atlanta became that place, and Atlanta's been great to us. So there's that. What does it take to be a good music director? People think that a good music director is just the person who's calling all the shots and throwing all the signals and that type of thing. And that's a part of it. But I think the biggest part of being a good music director is your ability to build an administrative team.
Okay.
Being able to know who's right for the job, who's gonna serve this situation the best, and then administrating that team in a way where everybody wins. Because as a music director, you're a team leader. You're the president.
Okay.
Right? So you have to think about a lot of other things outside of just the music. Just, all right, you've put the pieces together. Everybody should be playing their part musically, learning the material, making sure that they're straight on their instrument and ready to execute. After that, it's about, okay, how do I lead this band in a way where we sound great, we flow great, the music feels great, we serve the client or the artist or the event in the best way possible. How do we give the listeners the best experience as a unit?
Gotcha.
The music director has to be thinking about those things in order to kind of shape how they're going to lead the band.
Gotcha.
The other thing I think is, and this is something I've learned recently over the past few years, and this is, dealing with really great music directors who I've come in contact with in Atlanta, is you have to know all the parts. You don't have the luxury of just being a part of the band. You have to know you have to know what everybody's supposed to be doing, so that you can, help lead each and every part into being able to not only hold their weight and to carry their part of the music, but to be able to coalesce together and to make it a unified experience. So, as a musician who's generally playing keyboards, when I'm in that type of seat, I can't just know the keyboard part. I got to know what the bass player is supposed to be doing. I got to know what the drummer is supposed to be doing.
Right.
I got to know when the guitar player is supposed to be doing each and every one of their parts. I have to be aware of what the vocalists and the background singers are doing, so that I know how the band is supposed to complement and undergird what they're doing. I have to know what the artist wants, to happen during their show, so that I, understand, okay, this is how we need to, move with the artist, so that they feel undergirded and supported in what they're doing. Because I sing a lot of, I sing in other arenas. So as a front man, if your band ain't straight,
Yeah.
it makes everything that you're doing more shaky and more uncertain, and it can turn into a situation where it affects your performance as a front person. So, you know, getting to experience that on one end, I understand even at a greater level, like what it means to have a strong band, a strong unit behind you.
Gotcha.
You know, so
cool. Transitioning, we're gonna talk about Black Gold, but I want to talk about your first album, No Secrets, No Lies. Like, how is that process? Was that your first instance in like doing an album? Like, have you worked on people's albums before? And like, if so,
Yeah.
like, how is that different doing your whole like project, like your own thing?
So yeah, I released that album in 2016. By this time, I'd already been producing albums.
Yeah.
Since 2008. So I'd already been in the game, you know, a while. You know, as you know, as a producer and as a session musician and things of that nature. So I'm akin to the studio at this point.
Okay.
This is my first time doing a jazz record on my own, and it was a different thing. And you know, just the whole recording and production of the record was very new to me in that sense. And it was kind of like me, like I said, clawing my way and muscling my way back onto the scene, like saying like, I do this. Like,
yeah.
This is really me. Like y'all know me for, you know, the gospel artists and the churches and the conferences and all of this, and even the R&B scene. You know, y'all know me for that.
Yeah.
But this is really who I am on the inside.
Yeah.
This is I love jazz music. So that's what No Secrets, No Lies was about. It was kind of just like exposing, just like coming out as like, really, this is what I love. And so I wrote and composed a lot of the music, and it was kind of like a shock to people who had only seen me or experienced me as a keyboardist, and also in the gospel industry. Yeah. So like, it was one of those things where I had to kind of really be vulnerable and really be brave about stepping outside of not only my comfort zone, but other people's comfort zone with me.
Got you.
So that record came along. Like I said, my wife kind of showed me in certain ways that it was possible to be everything that I was. You know, everything that I was on the inside, it's possible to do that. And to step outside of what people kind of expected of me. So it gave me kind of the courage to pursue a career in jazz music, and then really to spread my wings artistically and creatively, and to actually create and to make a statement in the music. Yeah.
And then, well, I guess we might as well talk about the one in the middle, Our Thing, which is a tribute album. So how did that come about?
I went through a period where I was listening to a lot of Joe Henderson, and man, it was just like it was like song after song, record after record. It was like, man, this is incredible. Like, yeah. And you know, my favorite instrument, but outside of drums when it comes to jazz, is the tenor saxophone.
Oh, okay, all right. I
love tenor saxophone, man. And so I'm a John Coltrane head. I love John Coltrane. I love Michael Brecker. You know, there are so many songs and compositions that Joe Henderson did that I felt like didn't get enough shine.
Okay.
You know, because for whatever reason, I feel like maybe he took a more militant approach to the music, and in terms of making a statement about Black culture and Black importance. So if he had a stint in the 70s where a lot of his music was Black centered, like Black affirming. So at the time I did Our Thing is also at the same time where in the world we're going through the Trayvon Martins and you know, Black Lives Matter movement and kind of all these different things that are like where we have to, for some strange reason, remind the world that not only do we exist, but our lives are important.
Yeah.
Our culture, our communities are just as important as any other communities. So it felt like a good time to actually put out an album that was Black affirming, and to remind us that, you know, our contributions are really important. Our culture, our music, our style of dress, our style of language, our cuisine, you know, everything that we contribute to American culture is vital.
Yeah.
To what America is, and so this was kind of like in a double entendre kind of way. It was an ode to one of our legends that I felt like could, you know, he's respected, of course. He's a legend, but I think that he's on the same as a composer and as a creative. I feel like Joe Henderson is on the same level as a Wayne Shorter, as a Coltrane. You know, in terms of the music and the breadth of what the message of his music was saying. It's on the same level. So I did that record to kind of show love and pay homage to him, but also to infuse, you know, the listeners, whoever listened to the album, with the sense of like just listening to something really, really Black. You know, and in the idiom of jazz, like this is how we sound. You know.
Got you. So current day, Black Gold Orchestra. It's the latest. By the time this comes out, the album will be out. I haven't heard it yet, so I literally don't really know a lot about it, except that you have all the cats on it.
Right.
All the cats.
It's all the cats. It's an all Black big band orchestra. Which I know a lot of people, you know, especially in the modern age, have not seen. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But I'm saying that I wanted to kind of experiment and see and feel and hear what it's like when all of us get together.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the brothers and sisters. What do we all sound like? Because I believe that music and creating music, playing music, is just an extension of your own humanity. So, you know, when groups of other cultures get together and they interpret the music, it's still through the lens of who they are as individuals and their experiences. So they have a shared experience that they have. And I know, because I've been in these bands who are the majority white or majority, you know, whatever, there's a certain texture that's understood because they all understand each other. They have a communication like that. They it's understood, and it translates musically. It feels a way. It feels a completely different way when Black people get together because we have a shared experience and we have a shared consciousness that we're just, whether you're aware of it or not, we have a kinship that goes beyond us. You know, so, you know, I just wanted to hear and feel and experience what that was like. And also I wanted to establish something that instilled pride and interest in our music among our community. It feels like, you know, with Black people constantly innovating culture and music, it seems like we have developed a habit of leaving things behind sometimes.
Okay.
So like we're always moving on to the next thing. So even though Black people are the architects of every American musical form, we're the architects of it, whether we know it or not. You know, we somehow end up leaving it behind, and it becomes appropriated and institutionalized by the mainstream culture, and it becomes something that we, even though we are the architects of it and it came from us, it becomes almost foreign to us. You know, it's crazy that so many Black kids and black people are not really akin to this music, and we're the ones that, you know, and it's not just jazz. We're talking about rock and roll. We're talking about country. We're talking about house. We're talking about funk. We're talking about soul. I mean, there's so many different art forms where, you know, it's like we leave it behind and then somebody else picks it up and they make, you know, all this, they make money.
Yeah.
They build
popularity,
career.
all that.
Oh my God.
Stuff, yeah.
I mean, Bruno Mars, for him to go and to make the kind of records that he's made within the past 5 years and to become as big as he's become by not, you know, when he was doing the pop thing, he was great.
Yeah.
But when he got with the brothers, and, you know, and that's just a microcosm, and shouts out to Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
Because he actually did it in a way that still paid homage and respect to the culture.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that pick up our creations and our cultural heritage and institutionalize it, because what we do as a people, it becomes global. You know, jazz became global, rock and roll became global, hip hop became global. You know, funk music, blues, gospel, even it's become something that's accepted, loved, and appreciated globally. Fashion, language, all these things have become culturally important globally. And I think that black people need to take real pride and real ownership of our cultural contributions to the world, man. Like, Black Americans is a culture.
Yeah.
There's no, like, I don't subscribe to be called African American. I'm not an African American. Never been to Africa. But my ancestors, you know, shed blood here, paid prices here, that, you know, it gives me a sense of ownership, not only in this land, the United States of America, but also in the culture. American culture is black culture. There would be no American culture without us.
Right. Gotcha.
That's just the
true. Yeah.
So I say all that to say that my whole thing now is about just instilling a sense of pride into our community about everything that we've contributed at every level to not only this country but the world. And the closest thing to me is the music. So musically, what have we contributed? You know, so this is one of those things where it's like, okay, black people, it is still cool. It's very cool to dig into and deal with jazz music.
Yeah.
This is what our ancestors came up with, you know, out of slavery and out of oppression and out of so many things. We created something beautiful.
Yeah. And
we created something substantially innovative and effective in the world. And this is what it sounds like when we play it.
Yeah, bro. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Is this like all originals?
Most of it is originals. Yeah. There's a couple of standards in there that are arrangements. We arranged it for the band. Cool. But most of it is original compositions.
I dig, man. I'm definitely looking forward to it, because you teased it a while ago.
Man, so we're gonna release a single in March, and then the full album is gonna come out later in the year, in late August or early September. We're kind of still gauging what's the best time.
Okay.
But certain people have advised me of the best time to release it, because people have heard it and there's so much excitement just off of the idea of the band.
Yeah.
And then when they actually hear the band, it's like, oh yeah, this is.
Got you. So only the single is coming out in March.
Only the single's gonna come out.
It was an album.
I know. I thought it was gonna be the album too, but after letting certain people hear it, they're like, bro, you gotta, okay. So I have now people who are trying to like help in terms of getting the real word and message of the band out there.
I get it though,
and so they're advising me in certain things to do, and so I'm agreeing with them. And so we're gonna release the entire album later on in the year, but we'll release a single so everybody can just at least hear the band, hear what the fuss is about, and kind of get a piece of it.
I get it. You gotta stretch it out, man. Maximize the
That's
moment.
Right.
Maximize the moment.
That's right. This is important, man.
I really thought it was the whole album though.
This is important.
Very excited. But hey, I'm still by it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, man.
All right. I know you have a story for this. Worst thing that happened to you on a gig.
Whew. There's so many. As a keyboardist, I'll say,
Yeah. Keep it at Keyz, since major Keyz. So
worst thing that's happened to me on a gig as a keyboard player. Sheesh. I can't. It's hard to say worse. It's so many bad stories for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, just give it a bad story. It doesn't have to be the worst.
So I think one of the worst things for me, I was brought on to MD a major gospel conference.
Okay.
And so we're talking about like some big names.
Yeah.
Are on this conference. Judy McAllister, Ty Tribbett.
Oof. Yeah.
Vashawn Mitchell, Hezekiah Walker.
Oh yeah.
I mean, big names, man.
Yeah.
So, and one of my OGs, one of my big bros, Trent Phillips.
Okay.
Who's the MD for Donnie McClurkin.
Okay.
And so many other great, he's a legend, in terms of the gospel community. So he brought me on to serve as music director for this conference. And through the rehearsals, I ended up injuring one of my fingers.
Oh.
I injured this finger right here, my middle finger.
Your middle finger on the right hand?
Which is,
yeah. That's not to say, you need all.
You need all of them.
It's preferred to have all. But I mean, like, that's a...
Right in the middle, in the middle of your right hand, man.
Yeah.
It was so bad, and so it was very painful to play. But I had to play, and it was just like the entire conference I suffered.
Dog, man.
Not just personally, but I sounded pretty sad. I think,
man,
because I was unable to really get around.
You couldn't like really do like runs, or like you couldn't really navigate
chords and everything was just hard to do, and. So for me, it was really kind of embarrassing because you're with it's all these different gospel artists, and this is kind of like I'm probably 24, 25 at the time. Like this is the big leagues.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it was just terrible. I think that's probably one of the worst things that's happened to me on a gig. Just having an injury and not really being able to, bow out of the situation because, and then not being able to really vocalize it because nobody wants to hear about your problems.
Right.
You have a job to do.
Yeah.
So it was tough. That was super tough. The only other thing I can think of that's really bad is sitting at a keyboard and it's transposed.
Ooh, have you've like started a show and like or started a gig and then like the board was transposed?
I've been if you've ever been to a musical, which is where a lot of different people kind of share the same stage and the same gear.
Yeah. And
if the keyboard player that was ahead of you, like transposed.
For the people that don't know what transposing is.
Transposing is where you basically put the keyboard in a different key.
Yeah.
So that even if you're most comfortable in one key, you can sound like you're playing in whatever key, but you're really playing in a specific key. So, say
good keyboard players frown upon this.
It's really all relative, man.
Yeah.
I don't judge transposing keyboardists because it's if it helps you get the job done, so be it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that you are cheating yourself out of the chance to really get to know the instrument.
Okay.
But I don't necessarily feel like that makes somebody less of a musician. Right. It might make them less of a player.
Okay.
But I think that sometimes we get into shaming people into like you suck if you transpose, which is not necessarily true. I've heard some people really kill, but they were transposing.
Interesting.
There's one name I could drop right now that would surprise everybody.
Uh-oh.
But it's verifiable because they're on video doing it. But they were transposed.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, yee, if this cat transposes, it's like, what is really the issue? Because obviously they transposed because they felt like it was the best way for them to serve that song in the moment.
Okay.
And so that same that same idea goes to anybody that's doing it. Like if that's what it takes for you to serve the song best in the moment, then by all means do it. You know what I'm saying? If I'm singing, if you're playing behind me and I'm singing, and we're in a key that you're uncomfortable in, and you have the ability to put the keyboard in a key that you feel comfortable in and play the song better.
Yeah.
If I'm the front man, do whatever you got to do.
Fair enough. Yeah.
You know, so that's just me. Anyway, yeah. But if you're not a transposing keyboardist and you sit at a keyboard and you assume it's in the key it's supposed to be in and it's not, it's
terrible.
And then
terrible,
if you're not,
terrible.
and then if you're not incredibly familiar with the keyboard to even get to the transpose,
if you don't know
which
how
is
it
what
works,
which is what happened in my case. It was a keyboard I wasn't really familiar with, and trying to put it in the right key, and the set is going.
So like in your mind is like, okay, well I can't so you have to like reverse engineer like what key the song is in.
Which is incredibly difficult, not only because I'm not a transposing keyboardist, but it's also incredibly difficult because I have perfect pitch.
Oh, yeah.
And so my mind is already locked into what every key is supposed to be. So there's no way I can tell my mind that E flat is not E flat is A flat now because the keyboard is transposed.
Gosh, that's a hard one too. It's not even plus minus 2. That's far.
It's definitely hard for somebody that has perfect pitch. So that's probably on an immediate level. That's probably the most immediately bad thing that's happened to me on a gig.
Man,
yeah,
that's wild. Usually right here we do top three keyboard players. Top 3 national household name keyboard players. So you can start with national and then top 3.
Any genre?
This whatever.
All right, so my favorite pianist that I know personally is Kenny Banks Jr.
Fair. Absolutely.
He's my favorite. Yeah. He's a genius. Antoine Walker.
Okay.
He's primarily in the gospel circuit and R&B circuit. He's and these two cats are actually from Ohio as well, which I'm from. I was born in Cleveland, so shouts out to Ohio. Mm-hmm. Man, Antoine Walker is just he's so good. He's so good until it's almost annoying because it's like he just does. He can play anything with like ease, and it's just
effortless.
I hate it so much,
man.
But he's so good though. Yeah. So shouts out to Antoine Walker. Third. Whew. I know a lot of cats. Third that I know personally.
Yeah.
John Paul McGee.
You hipped me to him. I haven't listened to the album yet, but because I think you produced his last album, that's how I found out about him. Yeah. But the stuff that I've seen is amazing. I've yet to dig into the album, though.
And I've known John Paul McGee for many years. And he's been one of those people that when he sits down to play any keyboard instrument, and he's great. He's great on piano.
Yeah.
He's amazing on the organ. If you ever hear him play pipe organ, it's an experience for sure.
Oh, wow, okay.
He's incredible. But he's one of those cats that's like, you're kind of like just, all of them really, man. All of them. But John Paul in a way is like you're very disarmed by his playing. It's like you're just like, there's really nothing I can do to or say to kind of like protect myself from this moment I'm experiencing. I just have to go practice.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I think those are the top 3, keyboardists. I mean, I was going to say Keyz players because they play all,
Yeah, just it's 88. Yeah. Ivories, Ebony, however you want to do it.
And they're all really great. They're all, I mean, Antoine Walker, I've heard him play organ too a few times. He's freaking sick on the organ too. Yeah. Organ is a different thing. So
most definitely.
If we're talking about organ, I have a whole different list. My top 3 organists of all time starts with Corey Henry.
Yeah.
I think he's our generation's like, and there's a lot of great organists. Travis Sales is also. So my organ list is is really almost all New York cats because
That's fair.
I mean, incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But organ is a completely different mindset to me in
Absolutely.
terms of keyboard instruments. So it's different. Jaden Arnold, man, is on my list. He's a young cat. He's here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
But Jaden is he's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
It's insane. Top 3 that are like national that I don't know personally. Living or dead?
They can be dead.
They be?
They can be dead. Yeah, that's fine. That's
you
fine.
sure?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
We've had a couple of those on here. So it's
my favorite pianist of all time is Oscar Peterson.
Chop said the same thing.
Oscar Peterson, man. And many people say, Arc Tatum this and blah, blah, blah. Arc Tatum was amazing to hear.
Yeah.
But I felt, and I still feel something every time I hear Oscar Peterson play.
Yeah.
And Oscar Peterson had as much facility, I believe, as Arc Tatum did. But he had this soul to his joint that made the piano sing, like, in a way that's like, you felt it.
Yeah.
You felt the spirit. You felt the blues.
Yeah.
You felt the beauty in it when he played. But still like super killing, man.
Okay.
So Oscar Peterson, Chick Corea, who just recently passed away. Love his playing.
Yeah.
And Greg Fillinganes.
Ooh, yeah. Fair. Thriller for y'all who don't know. And much more.
Yeah,
much more.
Greg.
But I mean, like, most notably.
Greg played on just about all the hit songs from the on the late 70s on through the 80s, and his facility is insane.
Yeah.
His ability to play multiple keyboards at one time.
Yeah.
Sound design. It's just
Classic.
it's really incredible, and his ability to produce on the keys is incredible. So
Classic.
love him.
All right, 2 more things.
Yep.
Supergroup. You have an unlimited budget, unlimited availability. Put together your supergroup. Everybody's available. You can choose anybody. So like keys, bass, drums, guitar, horn section, and a lead vocalist.
All right. And I'm not in this band.
You can be. Some people
I'm not in this.
Some people have chosen, I'm gonna just stick in the back and play aux or like whatever. But like this is more so like you're kind of hosting whatever this event is.
Okay.
Like you produced the band.
I'm gonna say I'm the front man.
Okay, all right. So
band.
you're the singer.
I'm singing, and
Okay.
I and whatever the style of music is, this is just my band.
Okay, cool.
All right. At bass, it's kind of rough. At bass, I'm going with either Snoop, Alan Evans, who's my guy from he's from Detroit, or Justin Raines, who lives here. He's from Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And I actually get to play with Justin Raines, so it's almost kind of like
You can choose people you know. That's fine.
It's gonna be one of those cats on bass.
Okay.
Drums, I'm gonna go with Stanley Randolph on drums. On keys, it depends on the genre, but if it's across the board, Lord, Greg Fillinganes.
Okay.
I'll put him on keys. He's gonna be main keys. On organ, I'm putting Corey Henry. On auxiliary keys,
3 keys players. All right, I like this.
it's a super band.
I like this group. Yeah.
You wanted a super band.
Yeah,
so
let's do it. Yeah.
On auxiliary keys, I'm putting Herbie Hancock.
Whew. Herbie, Greg, and Corey at the same time.
Listen, you wanted a super
Bro,
band.
that's a group.
We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it happen,
bro. All right.
So Herbie Hancock is on auxiliary keys because I don't know if y'all know this, but Herbie Hancock is the godfather of sound design.
Yeah, most definitely.
And really making the synthesizer a real force. So he's still into it.
Still doing it.
Yeah, he's still into it. He's still into technology and keyboards and sound. Like, so I think that he would be able to come up with a bunch of cool stuff.
Oh yeah.
Guitar. Sheesh. It depends on the genre still for me, but I'm a big fan of like Greg Howe and
I'm not familiar, but okay.
I got hip to Greg Howe on like he did a record with Victor Wooten and Dennis Chambers, which I just love his guitar playing. So it might be him. I don't know who would be on a good guitar, man. It's just hard because I love guitar.
Yeah, if you don't want to have a guitar, you already
there's
have
so many
good
guitar players I
players.
love, but I don't know. That's a hard one. Percussion, Sheila E.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
You know what? Who I would have on guitar if I could?
Yeah.
Prince.
Well, try to keep people alive.
I know.
But I mean, like that. It's.
Hey, look, I got an unlimited budget, so I might have the budget to bring somebody from the dead.
You can pull some stems.
Hey,
together.
Area 51, I need to borrow that machine real quick. I got to put this band together.
Yeah.
No, if I could though, Prince would be on guitar.
Yeah.
But is that it?
I mean, like if you wanted to do horns, you could do horns, but like you don't have to.
Maceo.
Ooh, okay.
On alto saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Brecker on tenor. Well, he's passed.
Oh yeah.
He passed away. Joshua Redman on tenor saxophone.
Okay.
That would be interesting to see Joshua Redman in a section.
Yeah, he's very much a front person.
He's very much the star.
Yeah.
Shoot, at trumpet, Wynton Marsalis.
Okay.
It'd be funny to see him do other stuff.
Yeah.
Because I would in my band, if I was a front person, I would do jazz, funk, soul, gospel. I would do like everything in the same show. Trombone. Trombone. I know his name, but it escapes me right now. He plays with Lincoln Center. He's the white guy. What's his name? Him.
Got you. That'll work. All right.
The white guy that plays trombone with Lincoln Center.
Got you. Okay. All right. Last question. Last thing. What do you want to leave with the people? Words of motivation, wisdom, that sort of thing.
Be authentically yourself. One of the things I learned in college was learn all the rules and then break them. Mm-hmm. So just because, you learn all these different things, you learn from all these great masters of music, you study these albums, it doesn't mean that you have to sound like anything in particular. Mm-hmm. And it's most effective if you sound like yourself. So whatever that means, which is the real journey. This is what the greats did. The greats, they learned from the masters, and then at some point they disappeared, and then they came back, and they had this. It's like Moses and the Ten Commandments. Mm-hmm. Went up the mountain, and you came back with these tablets, and the world is different now.
Yeah.
John Coltrane, disappeared and came back with Love Supreme. Mm-hmm. Miles Davis disappeared, and he came back with Sketches in Spain and Kind of Blue and all these things. This is, Thelonious Monk disappeared and came back and had a whole different language to be by.
Yeah.
So disappear if you have to, but really find yourself after you learn all the fundamentals, after you learn the rules, after you learn from the greats. Mm-hmm. What do you do with that information now? Mm-hmm. Because everybody can play. It's about what you sound like and how you make people feel when you play. That really makes a difference. Yeah. If you're trying to really make a statement in the music.
Yeah, man. I dig.
That's what it is.
Socials for the people that want to follow you.
Follow me on Instagram, Larry Wilson Music. Mm-hmm. Everything else is connected to that. Facebook, Larry M. Wilson. And that's about it because
Black Gold Orchestra.
Black Gold Orchestra. All of it is. Yeah, if you go to my Instagram, all of it's there. Like Black Gold Orchestra, the band Smoke, Truth Music Productions is there. Yeah. This year I'm launching a jazz label, and I've got several artists on that label. Black Gold Orchestra is of course on the label. I'm on the label. I'll be releasing an album this year. I have Lava High, who's a great singer. On the label,
love playing with her. She's
Michael Cruz,
awesome.
We're gonna be doing Michael Cruz and Kenny Banks' record. We're gonna release on that label.
Oh, let's do it. Yeah.
So yeah, man, all of that is connected to the Instagram. You can follow that, and it'll kind of lead you down the rabbit hole of everything I'm doing. So
I dig, man. All right, that's been another episode of the Major Keyz podcast. Larry Wilson, no relation as of right now. Maybe we'll see.
We're just two light-skinned brothers, man, that play music.
Just trying to play the keys, man. All right.
Yeah.
Major Keyz podcast. Keep pressing on. We'll see y'all next time.